Okay, we'll get started here. My name is Andrew Schoen. Thanks for coming. The title of my talk, django-cms, Friends Don't Let Friends Use Drupal. I'll talk about the title a little bit because I've gotten quite a few comments on it. This is not a slam on Drupal. We'll keep this clean as much as I can. But talk to me afterwards. We'll slam Drupal a lot. It'll be fun. We have a sort of academic in Kansas City. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. All the agencies, all the web development shops in Kansas City, when a client comes in and says, I want to use CMS, immediately some middle manager pops up Google, types in CMS, and Drupal comes up, and they sell Drupal without a second thought. My idea here is that as, just want to explain people, there's other options out there. There's good options, especially in good languages better than other languages. I consider myself, I consider everybody in the Python community friends. And, being a friend of that community, I don't want to see any of you guys use Drupal. So I'm going to expose this to you. Just a little bit about myself. Andrew Schoen again, that's me on Twitter. Python KC is a user group I founded with a friend of mine in Kansas City. Find us on the Twitter account there. That's my little personal page. If you're ever in Kansas City, come see us. We love to have people talk, hang out, come to the user group meetings. We do it twice a month. So what is a CMS? I've explained it. You hear that a lot. It's content management system. The word content management system really doesn't explain it either. The simplest definition I could come up with was it's just a collection of content. Words, pictures, files, events, news articles, schedules. It's everything that goes on a website organized into menus. So we just have all this content. Companies have all these content out there. They just want to organize it, put it in some kind of navigation that the users of their website can get to. The problem here is that there are way too many options for CMS. Where I work at, someone came up and they're like, hey, I found this article. I printed this out. This is all the CMS options we have to look at, and it's like thud, just drops on the table, right? There's way too much stuff out there. So this highlights some of the big ones. You'll see this stuff a lot. Some PHP in there, .NET. I think Teams has even Java, which scares me. I'm not sure. I will shout out to Umbraco. They are an open source .NET who supports Iron Python. So this is a little sneaky trick I do. Clients come in and I can't convince them that Django is the way to go, right? I just can't get them to understand for whatever reason. We sell them on Umbraco and we write it in Iron Python. And then they get it hosted on IIS and we're all happy. So that's kind of a, it's a good option if you're forced to use something else. So you're probably thinking, well, we're at PyOhio. There was not a Python option on that list. So, we all love Python. We all love Django. I hope you do anyway. Maybe we got a bunch of new converts to Django from yesterday's boot camp, possibly. Can we have a CMS and use those technologies too? Answer is yes, you can. Django-cms. So there's some links to it. Django-cms is written by a company in Zurich, Switzerland, called Divio. Very smart group of guys. It's a good product. We'll talk about it a lot. You can follow them on Twitter. I highly recommend the IRC channel. It is a very, very friendly and informational IRC channel. If you ever have any troubles with it, someone is usually in there. I'm usually in there at all times of the day to help you through questions, implementation things, stuff like that. So why Django-cms? Why do I like it so much? And it's really all the CMS features you want without the complexity of most other options out there. Most of those other things I listed, and I've used most of those in some way or the other, if not building an entire site with them, I've helped a client stumble through an implementation or had to maintain it at some degree. These things are way too complicated. Too complicated to the user, too complicated to customize for the developer. I found that most of the times and stuff at Drupal, WordPress, these things, I spend more time trying to get it to do what it's not meant to do so that I can do what I need to do. It's conundrum. I have to completely remove functionality or just hack it into oblivion to get to do what I need to do for the site. So Django-cms it doesn't do that, right? It's a core group of features. It's very pluggable. It allows you to write your own stuff, and it's written in Python, right? Awesome. That's a big success. So let's talk about the features. So what are those CMS features you need? What do I see as the core set of CMS features? They have all of them. Django-CMS has all of the features. So you basically have page and menu creation, just the base of all CMS. And I think it's important that Django-CMS calls them pages. I think they're nodes in Drupal. An end user has no idea what a node is. They know what a page is. So user management, people need to be able to add users to your CMS. They need to be able to control them. With user permissions, what they can access, what pages they can go and edit, what they can do within those pages. Page moderation, which is like an editorial workflow style. I can edit the page, but I can't publish it. So that passes it along to someone else who says, this is good enough to go to production. It's multi-site and multilingual. So you can have many sites in one admin install, which is really nice. Multilingual, so you can have multiple languages. So it's really flexible in that way. I think we have one site now that's 14 sites in one admin. And the story there was it was actually a Joomla install. Multiple Joomla, 14 different Joomla sites. The client wanted to get rid of Joomla, yay. But they didn't want to tell their old provider. We web scraped all their sites, pulled it into one Django-CMS site within a couple of weeks. It's a great project for that. Front-end editing. Front-end editing is the feature to me that sells clients. When I'm pitching this to clients, and usually we're up against Drupal, which is why I pick on it so much in a pitch, is that when I show them how easy it is to edit content in Django-CMS, they're sold. And that's all they care about. They just want to be able to go to a page, change these words, put up a new image. They're not concerned with anything else, right? The plugin system is what sells developers. So back to, I'm having to hack these other CMSs into oblivion to get them to do what I want it to do. The plugin system in Django-CMS allows it to be very, very flexible. Plus you get everything that comes with Django. So you have that framework behind you. You have an ORM. You can use models. Using models to define data is much easier than using some weird interface that creates XML and then you get to use XSLT to pull your data back out. So I, against my better judgment and the advice of my peers, I'm going to do a demo of Django-CMS. I think you need that context. You need to see it. You need to see these features and how it works to have in your head, what the next slides will do. But I've set rules for myself.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
How easy is it to set up different payment modules?
I'm sorry?
Payment modules?
Payment modules? This would just be a plugin or an old Django app. So if you can do payment in a Django app, you can plug that right into Django-CMS easily. So for my demo, I just set some rules for myself because these catch on fire real easy, right? So I'm not going to open terminal. I'm not going to type anything. I'm not going to hit a database. See, there's rules here. I'm going to try to stick to those. So the first thing you'll see here up at the top, this is Django-CMS edit mode, this bar up here. That is your front-end editing toolbar. This is what the control panel the users are going to see. So we'll kind of go through here. So template, these are just your available templates. A user can switch templates here, it refreshes, and then would show the content in a different template. If placeholders, and we'll explain placeholders later, are named the same between templates, the content goes with it. So if you have multiple templates with the same placeholder name, you can switch templates and all your content stays with it. They don't have to recreate the content for each template. Page, so you can move, add pages, add child pages. You're creating your menu. In the admin, site administration, page settings, history. This view history has if you have a certain module installed, you can have revision history on all of your pages. So you can revert back to previous pages and things. That's Django reversion. So what I want to show you this. So this is my template here. If I go into edit mode, you see now the page refreshes and you see these bars. So these are my placeholders. So in Django-CMS, templates have placeholders. Inside of placeholders, they have plugins. Plugins are your content. So this right here, this is a plugin. That's a plugin, that's a plugin, plugin. All right, so it's very modular in that way. And because of this, you can literally do anything and shove it right into a template if you can write a plugin for it, which is, you can write a plugin for anything. To edit these, get this bar up here. You hit that, it comes up right up in the menu. So this is, I don't know how you pronounce this, a WIM editor. YME editor. I don't know how to exactly go. It uses TinyMCE as well. I prefer this one. These are extensible as well. You can give different classes to these. You can customize these editors. Has a really nice HTML. If you don't want users typing HTML, but maybe you can put those in there. Cancel that down. You can move stuff around. So if I want to add column 2, I want this to be in column 1 instead of column 2. I can go here, say column 1, and now that jumps over in column 1. Then maybe I want to put that back up top and put this back in column 2. All right, so it's really, you can't drag in here, you can in the admin. That's really nice, and I think users being able to edit pages like this with the context of the page is important. Because usually in an admin, and I'll show you the admin here in a sec, you add that text, you add that images, you're not sure what it's doing to your page, right? It's easy to see it this way. So I'll go. So this is the page admin. So this is the change list in the admin. So this is standard Django admin. It just plugs right in. This is another user feature I think is great about Django-cms is the way it organizes your menus. A lot of CMSs dump everything into like just a file structure that has randomly no structure to it. And then you have to create menus somewhere else and pull pages into it and create these random menus. Here you create the pages in the menu at the same time. So for a user and for me anyway, I think it's helpful when I can visualize my website as a sitemap. This is kind of how my sitemap looked when we were in discovery. For this, it's just a tree structure. You got certain things you can edit. Over here we have EN and ES, so those are your languages. So I've done English and Spanish on those. That little icon there on home just specifies it at the root, so that's slash. You go to that slash page. Then you have to cut, copy, paste, delete in navigation or publish. So publish makes it show, and navigation puts it in the menu. Start and end is auto publishing. So in the admin for this, you can say, I want to start this page up, auto-publish it in a week, take it down in 2 days. So you can schedule those things. And this, for the new version, 2.3, 2.3's latest, these menus load lazily. So you can do thousands of pages, and this still handles well. I've done sites with tens of pages and sites with thousands of pages, and it works pretty well. So once you edit a page, this is what you see. So I've clicked on home here. So this is the back-end admin, for a better word. Up top you have your different languages. So as many languages you have, those add tabs all the way across. It's not, you don't really, in some situations I guess you would put all the content in one place and translate it somewhere else. Here it's put in as the language, so it's not translated after the fact. So if you just switch back and forth, just different content for the different pages. And you'll see the publication date stuff where you can schedule that stuff. Title is the default title of the page. Slug gets auto-generated from that, so that's your URL. Menu title, if you put that in there, that will overwrite what gets printed in the navigation. So you can have a different page title that you print on Page or wherever else, so like in the template. And the menu title will show up in the navigation. That's helpful if you have a really long title for a page, but you don't want that to be in the navigation that way. Down here is a template selector. So these are all your available templates. When you reselect templates, it's going to refresh it. It's got to pull all the different placeholders in from the database. But listed below that is your different placeholders. So you'll see these like it was on the home page. Oops, like it was on the home page. Here, those different placeholders. These you can drag between. So I could drag, this one all the way up here, and that works in the admin. You plug in here, you just drop that down, click the one you want, hit add plugin, and then it lets you edit it over in this window. I won't do that because that hits the database, violates my rule. So down below here, advanced settings. So a lot of these are configured with setting variables in your setup.py in Django. I configured all of them. ID is always there. ID is just I can give an arbitrary ID to this page so I can reference it later in different template tags. I usually only do this for the home page and some other examples. Situations, I guess. Overwrite URL. So your URL is built with all of your ancestors, slugs, and then yours. If you specify something there, that becomes your absolute URL. So it's not like, about us, our company, some other page. If that's the structure it would have. If you specify that, it puts you just wherever you want. So it's a way to completely override the URL. So redirect. Redirect means it's just in a page. You can make this redirect to Google or whatever. It shows up in the menu, you click it and go somewhere else. If you have a third-party site or something, but you still want that to be in the menu. Login required, self-explanatory. You can't see it unless you're logged in. Menu visibility, same way. So do I want to show the navigation for everybody? You're only logged in users. Soft routes are a way to, if you have a really, really big site structure, soft routes are a way to stop those at certain levels. So you're not overwhelming users of the admin by seeing thousands of pages. You can kind of collapse that down. And when you print that on the client side, you can stop at those soft routes too. Attached menus, adding custom menus to the navigation. And then app hooks, which we'll talk about later. You can also do SEO settings if you've enabled it. So you want to specify a specific page title. Meta tags, keywords, and these get printed with a template tag right into the template. And down at the bottom here are the user permissions. So if you add them, it's basically saying, this user group can edit and delete on these page structures. And you can specify just this page and all of its siblings, this page and all of its children. You have a very fine-grained control over how you let users edit your site. So back to this. This demo code I just showed you, this is all available in GitHub. In hopes that you can just see a working installation, help you out. I committed the SQLite database. I felt really dirty when I did that. But just to help you guys out, so you don't have to set anything up. All that data is there, that default data. It should run pretty easy. I tried to make it very simple to spin up this demo site so you can see it, explore with it, change stuff, write your own plugins, those sort of things. So check it out. Hopefully it's helpful. So templates. Templates are like the building blocks, right? That's the base of any CMS is templates. How many, and I always tell designers when they're coming to me for estimates and things, well, how many templates are you having me make? Because that's what it boils down to. How many unique templates am I going to have to create, and how many plugins am I going to have to put in that template? So it's sort of the base of everything. So this is a django-cms template. This is the for the minimum viable template for your startup person here. It's the minimum viable MVT of templates, right? So this is everything you need, nothing else to create a django-cms template. So up top, you're loading CMS tags, menu tags, and the Sakazi. Sakazi is not a django-cms itself. It's a dependency. But those are the render blocks tags you see. And those are for plugin development. So if you're writing a plugin that has CSS, that has JavaScript, you add it to those blocks with your plugin so your assets get put in the correct places. Through their CMS toolbar, that's the bar you saw here up top. Show menus, obviously printing the menu. Placeholders, and that's it. I mean, you could write a site with this template. It wouldn't be very pretty, but you could. So now let's go through some of the different template tags, settings, and things you'd need to make django-cms run. So once you've created your templates, you got to let them know what your templates are. Right? So that's what CMS templates is for. And all this stuff goes in your settings.py if you're familiar with Django. This assumes a little bit of a familiarity with Django. So you're just defining it. It's just a tuple of tuples, your HTML file, which lives in templates, obviously. Get text. Get text is just a lambda. It has nothing to do with Django-CMS really. It's a lambda that takes a string and returns a string. This is for caching and translation purposes. So you're just right there. So that's what the users see is that second part of the tuple when they're selecting templates. So placeholders. Placeholders are the next big part, right? So you get your template and you got to put all your placeholders in it. That's where your user is going to edit content. So the basic one is just placeholder and you name it. Or you can have default content. I use this a lot. So placeholder, homepage content, or just some random content. So what this means, if the user hasn't put in their own content, just show this. So usually I'll get comps back from a designer, HTML files, and I'll usually wrap all their content in one of those. So when the user adds this template for the first time, they can kind of see it. They kind of know how it should look, what we kind of expect it to look like. You can use the Django with tag to pass context into the placeholder. So in this case, I'm saying that this placeholder, when it renders its template, it will have an extra context variable called with a value of 320. So this is handy when you're you're putting placeholders in different places, and the plugins will go in multiple placeholders. So you know if you put a plugin in here, you maybe need to size something to 320, or if you put the same plugin over in this other placeholder, you don't need that size. So that's what that's for. Inherit's cool. Placeholder, home content, inherit. And what this does, if you don't have content, well actually no, this one always does this way. It goes up to the parent page and pulls content with the same name. So if you have like, an about section with 30 pages underneath it, you can put a branding pod on the about home page and have that tier all the way down. So CMS placeholder comp. So once you have all your placeholders defined, it's nice to tell this isn't needed, but it's nice to tell the system about those placeholders, what plugins you want them to use, a text-only plugin. So the text-only plugins, the text plugin I showed you on the home page, you can specify plugins that go into it. So you can add plugins into a text plugin so you see it in the editor. Again, extra context. Limits here is important. So with limits, you can specify how many plugins of a certain kind or globally you want in that placeholder. So if you have a design where you know this really can only take one image, if the end user puts 2 images in here, they're going to blow up the design, right? It's just not going to work. So this is how you kind of, in a way, save the user from themselves. Don't give them too much leash they can hang themselves with. So you just limit what they can do. It's for their own good. Show placeholders, or what it says. I want to go and grab content from another placeholder and put it in my template. So you access it by name. I want to find the placeholder footer from this ID. So I need to reference a page. You have to tell me what page this placeholder is on. You can do that by just giving the ID at the top, or you get a current page variable into request. You can do stuff like parent ID, get root, those sort of things. This is kind of a little trick from the docs. So you can do placeholder teaser, so think of this like a sidebar, right? Ads on it, or show placeholder from the root page. So this, if you want to override it, you can. If not, just pull in the default content from the root. So page tags. This is how I'm going to get information from the page. From the current page I'm on, or from pages that I need to ID to. So page URL just gets me the URL for a page. Help is the ID. You see standard things here. Or you can use request.current page again. Page attributes is pulling stuff about the page. So these things in the admin that you specified. I can say print the page title, or its meta description keyword. So those you want to always put up in your head in the template, so they print. If you don't put those, the user can put everything in they want and it'll never show. I've actually used meta keywords before to populate a haystack search index. The client's content was it's lacking. It wasn't good. And even with haystack being as awesome as it couldn't pull stuff back it wanted. So they use meta keywords to just spam that index with stuff they wanted to show up. So menu tags. You saw one in the template example. So show menu is the one you're going to use the most. That first one, that's the default parameters there. So the first one is start level. So what level in the menu do I want to start at? End level, how many levels down? Extra inactive is how many nodes do I want to show outside of the active tree? So if the page is in About Us down there, do we want to show sibling pages of that or not? How many inactive nodes do we want to show? Extra active is how many down do we want to show after the active page? So we want to show just one more level deep? Do we want to go 4 levels deep? That's how you do that. These all take a custom template as well, so I can render a custom template for my menu. Show menu below ID, meta. So I'll just jump in here. So typically how I use this, right or wrong, works for me well. The navigation you always see at the top right of pages, or maybe in the footer, is always a little bit different, right? So what I would usually do is I set up another page here, call it utility nav or something, give it an ID of meta or utility nav, whatever I would decide. Make sure it's not in menu, but it's published. And then I'll create my pages underneath that. And then when I want to print that, I just do a show menu below ID, and that prints just that section of nav. So that's the way to kind of create little mini menus within that tree structure. Show submenu and show breadcrumb. show submenu is only concerned with stuff under the active node, under the active page. So it's going to take the active page and show how many levels down you want. So I'm just one level down. So whatever the active page is, go one level down and show that. Show breadcrumb is what you expect. It's a breadcrumb on a site. So it wants to show I'm in home, about us, our company, or whatever, right? The 2 there tells me how many levels I want to go up. So I do want to go just one level up, all the way up to home. And then again, a custom template. Most of these always take a custom template you can render. Language tags. So page language URL. So I think, as I understand it, hopefully I'm not wrong on this, the page URL I showed you previous is only for the current language that's specified. This way we can get page URLs for different languages. So I'm getting the page language URL for the German version, for the French version of this page, doing that. Language chooser is just this thing, right? And I've given it a custom template for this, but it gives you that little widget that it creates that drop-down menu so you can switch between languages. So these are the settings. It's a lot of them. I've got most of them. These are listed as defaults. You saw most of these in the admin under advanced settings. That's kind of where most of them go. URL overwrite, menu title overwrite, redirects. I mean, you should remember these from, let's see, from this page down here in advanced settings. So most of these all show up here: overwrite URL, redirect, soft root, all that stuff just gets put in there. The ones you're not seeing are like public for. So CMS public for equals all. So that means that anybody can see pages that are published. If I set that value to staff, that means that a user has to be logged in and given staff access in the Django admin to see those pages. So that's good for like an intranet. If you have an intranet site, you don't want a lot of people to see it. Start date, end date, those are for the publishing. Cache durations, cache prefix, pretty self-explanatory. These are some more language-related stuff. So hide untranslated would mean that if this is true, and I go to a page and I switch the language and there's stuff in the menu that's not translated to that language, it's just going to hide it out of the menu. So it doesn't show pages in other languages that aren't translated. CMS languages is defining, so you're telling the CMS what language you support. Language fallbacks are, if I'm on a page and I switch to German and there's not German, it's going to fall back to what I specified in language conf. So in this case, if I'm in English and there's not a page, I go to the German version. Or if I'm in German and I'm not a German, I go English and then French. That's how it's going to tier down and show languages. Site languages, so you can do that on a per site basis. Like I said, this is multi-site, so you can specify languages per site. The front-end languages are, this is what's shown to the user. I think it usually defaults to whatever your language, CMS languages is. But so if I want to add a new language, but I don't want to show it in the menu yet, that's how you do it. Like, so I want to add French, but I haven't translated everything yet. You can do that, so it shows up in the admin, but it's not showing up blank pages in the front end of the site. So plugins. django-cms comes with some built-in plugins that you can use, but I think the real power comes from building your own. And this is what I love about it, because it just provides that flexibility, right? I mean, I can write a plugin for almost anything. So these are the built-ins. I only use like that one ever. I think if it was up to the lead developer, all these would just die in a fire. Because I think it's the power of the plugins, right? We need the community and other people to write their own plugins to write stuff that works better for your implementation, right? So I don't want CMSs to tell me what my content looks like. I want them to give me good tools to model my own. So that's where writing your own custom plugins come in. And you can use these for a lot of things. You know, this could hook into existing Django apps you have installed. You can create UI elements with that. You could hit APIs. It really is just a Django view you can put inside a template. You write it. It's just it's got a model or not, a view and a template, and it prints. So like this one here. Let me go here and add. So this is how you would add a plugin to something. I wrote this little button plugin, which is basically just collecting information from the user about their button, and it then generates the HTML for a Twitter Bootstrap button, right? So this is creating a UI element that would not be easy to do just through the text editor. So custom plugins, we're going to be using the Django polls tutorial. If you guys haven't used that or have experience with Django, start there. So a refresher. So this is what the poll model looks like from the tutorial. This has nothing to do with Django-CMS. This is just from the tutorial. So a poll has a question and a publication date. The choice has the poll and then the choice and the votes for that one. So this is what you do to make that example a CMS plugin. So you write another, this is usually in your models.py. You extend from CMS plugin, and then basically define whatever you want. So this is defining just poll. All I want the user to do is select a poll from my database, right? And this is this down here. So if I edit this one, that's what you see. So it's just a listing of the polls. I can select it, I print it, puts it on page. Once you got that defined, you create a CMS plugin. So it extends from CMS plugin base. It takes a model or not. Model's not required. It needs a name though. So this is just what the user is going to see when they select your template or select your plugin. Render template is what template it's going to render when this render method runs. And then this is your view, right? This is you can do anything you can do in a Django view here. And what it needs to return is context. It needs to return a dictionary of the context you want to pass to the template. Define that, and then you just register it. So register that with Django-CMS. Let it know I've got a new plugin out there the users can use. This is just a template. I won't spend much time on this. Standard Django templates, but it's very cool that you can use Django templates. And you're not locked into some proprietary weird templating system. So app hooks. So sometimes a plugin isn't enough, right? So you need to write your own Django app to do something that's a little bit more involved. But what you want to be able to do is let the users decide where that lives in the navigation. So that's kind of what app hooks come into play. So this is all there is to it. This is a CMS app. So you extend from CMS app there, you give it a name, and you tell what URLs to look at. And when you do this, make sure if you have an existing app, remove that from urls.py. This replaces that. So you create an app hook, you register it, and then through the admin, you can go down here and select it. So if I select poll admin here and I save, when a user goes to this page, they are now in my Django app. They're out of the CMS. This is where they're at. So you're in that. Let me just show you. So that happens here. And in here, you can still have placeholders, right? So I can dump placeholders into the template, and I can still edit it. So if I go in the edit mode here, this content goes away. That was a placeholder right? So there's no real content there. The thing with that is that it's not poll specific, right? This is template specific this way. So it's kind of global through these templates. If you want to do something that's page specific, or poll specific, I guess, you use something called a placeholder field. And it's just to add on to the model. And I've got a link there. I don't have time really to go through those. But it's just to become something on your model, and it's a placeholder field. And you get a placeholder in the admin, just like you do in the Django admin. You can add plugins to it. So custom menus. So I've now hooked my app in, right? But I've got some dynamic menus I want to create. So how do I get the dynamic menu? So in this case, we're going to add all the polls we have to that menu. So what you do is create, this usually is in menus.py, it doesn't matter where it is, but convention is in menus.py. So CMS attach menu, give it a name, and your get nodes method is what you have to overwrite. So basically what we're going to do here is create a nodes dictionary. In this case, I'm looping through all my poll objects, creating navigation nodes. So this is going to be your text of the menu. The next one is the URL of the menu. I'm just doing a reverse back to my view. And then you got to give it a primary key. It's got to have a unique ID. In this case, I'm just using the primary key for the poll object. You append it back and just return it. Then register it again. So you've got that done. So now you have to go to your app hook you created and then tell it again, this is the new menu. It's pretty simple. So now when I go to the polls app, you'll see this over here. So that's my app hook, or my custom menu. Yeah. This right here. So my menu up here, so polls gets put there by the CMS app. So the user has actually created a polls page and hooked the CMS app into it, which makes polls show up. This What's Your Favorite Python framework is just the poll that I've created. So this is just, I've created different polls, and if I had more, they would keep listing. And this is just using a standard, I think this is a show submenu template. So extensions. These are really just apps. These are just app hooks, right? But this is built in the mind for Django CMS. So this is just some third-party apps that I install in most all of my sites, just to let you guys know. Django Filer. So Django CMS itself does not come with image and file management, those sort of things. It depends on Django Filer, and this is back to, Django CMS just wants to have core features, and it wants to have the community build things around it and have them vet out what's good, what's bad, what they're going to use. So Django Filer is kind of I think the one that's risen to the top that most people use for asset management. CMS Plugin Filer is just a set of CMS plugins that hook into Filer. So you got image, video, teaser, file things to pull those in. Let me probably show one real quick, maybe. All right, so yeah, image. So in here you just caption, you can select an image. It's got some really nice cropping, and it requires easy thumbnails, so you can do some really nice cropping and auto sizing of images. So if you know, and usually it's kind of nice because I can tell the end user, just upload the biggest image you think you're going to need, and then we can crop it down. I've worked with agencies before where they'll have some production guys in there making 8,000 different size versions of images. That's terrible. Just do it with easy thumbnails. Use this. Django reversion. So this is what I talked about earlier. If you install this, you'll get page history. So I can revert back to any page, version of the page in its history. CMS plugin blog. It's a blog app. It's pretty good. Django CMS redirects. This is a small app, and I had to pitch this because I built this. A friend of mine built this in my company. Basically what this allows you to do is just create 301 or 302 or 410 status codes on redirects. So if we take over a site, we're rebuilding it, most likely we're changing all your URL structure. But for SEO purposes, to help Google out, we need to let them know where we put your content at, right? So you can put in an old path and a new path, and a 301 or 302 redirect, whatever you decide. Or you can put in the old path, and if it doesn't get pulled to the new page, just don't specify it and you get a 410. So you can let Google know where your content is. And that's it. I mean, that's kind of Django CMS in a whole. That's kind of what you need to know to go out and create your own. So if anybody has any questions, and also this is, all this stuff is up online. So my slides are hosted, so links for them. We have time for questions if anybody has one. All right, thanks. Too complicated. Too complicated to the user, too complicated to customize for the developer. I found that most of the times and stuff with Drupal, WordPress, these things, I spend more time trying to get it to do what it's not meant to do so that I can do what I need to do. It's conundrum. It's I have to completely remove functionality or just hack it into oblivion to get to do what I need to do for the site. So Django CMS it doesn't do that. Right? It's a core group of features. It's very pluggable. It allows you to write your own stuff, and it's written in Python, right? Awesome. That's a big success. So let's talk about the features. So what are those CMS features you need? What do I see as the core set of CMS features? They have all of them. Django CMS has all of the features. So you basically have page and menu creation, just the base of all CMS. And I think it's important that Django CMS calls them pages. I think they're nodes in Drupal. An end user has no idea what a node is. They know what a page is. So user management, people need to be able to add users to your CMS. They need to be able to control them. With user permissions, what they can access, what pages they can go and edit, what they can do within those pages. Page moderation, which is like an editorial workflow style. I can edit the page, but I can't publish it. So that passes. They get it hosted on IIS, and we're all happy. So that's kind of a, it's a good option if you're forced to use something else. So you're probably thinking, well, we're at PyOhio. There was not a Python option on that list. So, we all love Python. We all love Django. I hope you do anyway. Maybe we got a bunch of new converts to Django from yesterday's boot camp, possibly. Can we have a CMS and use those technologies too? Answer is yes, you can. Django-cms. So there's some links to it. Django-cms is written by a company in Zurich, Switzerland, called Divio. Very smart group of guys. It's a good product. We'll talk about it a lot. You can follow them on Twitter. I highly recommend the IRC channel. It is a very, very friendly and informational IRC channel. If you ever have any troubles with it, someone is usually in there. I'm usually in there at all times of the day to help you through questions, implementation things, stuff like that. So why Django-cms? Why do I like it so much? And it's really all the CMS features you want without the complexity of most other options out there. Most of those other things I listed, and I've used most of those in some way or the other, if not building an entire site with them, I've helped a client stumble through an implementation or had to maintain it at some degree. These things are way. Okay, we'll get started here. My name is Andrew Schoen. Thanks for coming. The title of my talk, Django-cms, Friends Don't Let Friends Use Drupal. I'll talk about the title a little bit because I've gotten quite a few comments on it. This is not a slam on Drupal. We'll keep this clean as much as I can. But talk to me afterwards. We'll slam Drupal a lot. It'll be fun. We have a sort of academic in Kansas City. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. All the agencies, all the web development shops in Kansas City, when a client comes in and says, I want to use CMS, immediately some middle manager pops up Google, types in CMS, and Drupal comes up and they sell Drupal without a second thought. My idea here is that just want to explain people, there's other options out there, there's good options, especially in good languages better than other languages. I consider myself, I consider everybody in the Python community friends. And being a friend of that community, I don't want to see any of you guys use Drupal. So I'm going to expose this to you. Just a little bit about myself. Andrew Schoen again, that's me on Twitter. Python KC is a user group I founded with a friend of mine in Kansas City. Find us on the Twitter account there. That's my little personal page. If you're ever in Kansas City, come see us. We love to have people talk, hang out, belong to someone else who says, this is good enough to go to production. It's multi-site and multilingual. So you can have many sites in one admin install, which is really nice. Multilingual, so you can have multiple languages. So it's really flexible in that way. I think we have one site now that's 14 sites in one admin. And the story there was it was actually a Joomla install, multiple Joomla, 14 different Joomla sites. The client wanted to get rid of Joomla, yay. But they didn't want to tell their old provider. We web scraped all their sites, pulled it into one Django-cms site within a couple of weeks. It's a great project for that. Front-end editing. Front-end editing is the feature to me that sells clients. When I'm pitching this to clients, and usually we're up against Drupal, which is why I pick on it so much in a pitch, is that when I show them how easy it is to edit content in Django-cms, they're sold. And that's all they care about. They just want to be able to go to a page, change these words, put up a new image. They're not concerned with anything else, right? The plugin system is what sells developers. So back to, I'm having to hack these other CMSs into oblivion to get them to do what I want it to do. The plugin system in Django-cms allows it to be very, very flexible. Plus you get everything that comes with Django. So you have that framework behind you. You have an ORM. You can use mod. Come to the user group meetings. We do it twice a month. So what is a CMS? I've explained it. You hear that a lot. It's content management system. The word content management system really doesn't explain it either. The simplest definition I could come up with was it's just a collection of content. Words, pictures, files, events, news articles, schedules. It's everything that goes on a website organized into menus. So we just have all this content. Companies have all these content out there. They just want to organize it, put it in some kind of navigation that the users of their website can get to. The problem here is that there are way too many options for CMS. where I work at, someone came up and they're like, hey, I found this article. I printed this out. This is all the CMS options we have to look at, and it's like thud. You know, just drops on the table, right? There's way too much stuff out there. So this highlights some of the big ones. You know, you'll see this stuff a lot. Some PHP in there, .NET. I think Teams has even Java, which scares me. I'm not sure. I will shout out to Umbraco. They are an open source .NET who supports Iron Python. So this is a little sneaky trick I do. Clients come in and I can't convince them that Django is the way to go, right? I just can't get them to understand for whatever reason. We sell them on Umbraco and we write it in Iron Python. And then